The purpose of this workshop, do you want to open the meeting?
Yes. Meeting at 5:35.
Okay, so the purpose of this meeting is to continue discussion on the payment in lieu of taxes policy. I would just like to, I guess I'm going to start.
Sure.
When this was first presented, it sounded like, yeah, this sounds like a good idea. I gotta tell you, after doing my own research, after reading and rereading and rereading the policy, a lot of the recent banter has brought me to a different conclusion. Don't necessarily think that this is the route that we want to go down. I'm actually not in favor of pursuing this anymore. So that's my 2 cents. Anyone else? I'm not going to take a ton of comments from the audience, at least not right now. This is a workshop with the 2 committees. It's not our normal meeting.
I think it's an interesting idea. I think it could work. I think it's only going to be one at a time. Everything's going to be different. Everyone is going to be different. And it's something we could look at. Certainly going after the state would be wonderful, and getting some money from the Quabbin area. But there's a lot of argument about it. I don't think it's the way to go. You have to figure out a gentler way.
I have everything that was,
Yeah.
Do you want me to hand out everything?
Yeah, please, sure, if there's updated information.
Here's the stuff from you. And then I'll hand out.
Thank you.
Well, I am in favor of it. I've done a lot of work, trying to get input, done a lot of research on it, and there are costs that are involved with this, and it's supposed to be fair and equal. You know, the taxpayer shouldn't be paying, covering the cost for everything in this town.
I don't disagree with that.
Okay?
And you say it should be fair and equal, but you've made
Right.
comments recently that, well, churches would be exempt. And I
It's
don't know
right here on the
how.
policy.
Right.
Did you read it?
I did, Phil,
Good.
several times.
Good.
And I don't know how you can say one thing's exempt and not anyone else. That's not, to me, that's not equal and fair.
Well, also equal and
I'm-
fair, excuse me.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I just feel like we're either like singling out certain ones and that's not right. The bottom line is that's just not right. So if we think that there are entities that should be considering more, then let's have conversations with them and see where we can get with them. This is not enforceable. There's no way to enforce this. So we said it, we're saying it's voluntary. Nobody does it. There's no
What do you mean
means
no
of
one
it,
does it?
if nobody wants to do it, because it's voluntary, right?
The state does it. There's over 100 of these in the state.
But
Massachusetts,
in our policy,
that
it says
cover
it's
impact
voluntary,
fees.
right?
That cover impact fees, Kelly. You know what
But
those
you-
are, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm not, all right.
I
Okay.
do. Thank
Good,
you.
Good,
I do.
It's fire, it's police.
Yep.
It's infrastructure, it's
everything-
sewer.
Yep,
It's all these
absolutely.
things.
Right.
And
We
it
can't
shouldn't
even
be
get
the
that
burden
out
on
of a
the
cannabis facility now, because the state stepped in and said, we can't put things on them that we're not putting on everybody else.
Additional impact
Okay.
fees above and beyond. You can't make them buy you a fire truck
Nope.
to operate marijuana.
And nobody
other
should
towns
be
have been doing
responsible
this.
to,
Okay?
so, again,
So when you say-
my opinion,
The state says with cannabis, a 3% fee is allowed for impact
Not
fees
anymore.
not anymore.
on retail.
On certain things,
Yeah,
yes, but
retail.
not just having one in our town, not anymore,
Right, oh, I understand that because that's not a resale. A
so,
retail facility, that's like a whole, a farm, basically. that's gonna grow marijuana. So,
I'm just, my
well,
opinion,
then, do
I
what you
just,
two, wanna do.
I guess this is what you're proposing.
We're proposing this. I didn't see that till 4:30 this afternoon.
Same. That's why I'm questioning it.
You have the floor.
Yes, please.
So, we don't disagree that this town should have basic policies that are guidelines, guardrails that we should be able to follow, okay? A pilot policy is not a bad idea to have as a guideline to follow. We, as a board, are advising the selectmen to take a much softer stance on a policy that's negotiated by each nonprofit based on the services they provide and the services we provide. And it's more of a negotiation that should take place. These are voluntary contributions. They're unenforceable. So to come up with a policy as hard as the one that you've come up with, I think I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's reality. You're forcing something down. You're forcing a policy down that is it's very, very rigid, and I think a percentage of revenue, I think, is just ridiculous, especially for a nonprofit. And nonprofits add a lot of value to this town. They add a lot of value from a long-term perspective. There's reasons why people want to move here because we've got open space, we've got these communities, and Eagle Hill does, present a lot of value to this town. They bring a lot of people in, a lot of.
This isn't about Eagle Hill. It's about all nonprofits.
I'm not saying it's about Eagle Hill, okay?
Well, you brought it up. So.
I brought open space up, Bob, and there's other ones, okay? I think we need a very general policy, and the select board, at the time of whoever's on the board, negotiates deals. There was deals that have been negotiated in prior years, and we're living with them right now. So, but have a guideline, have some guardrails you can follow, and that's how we do things. And I think there's a lot of policies we need to be putting in place in here in town, so we can manage this town much more effectively. That's our stance.
Okay. Appreciate the input. Warren, Glenn, any other comments?
Similar comment is just that it's almost an individual arrangement between you three and an entity, any entity, and obviously times change, different people come in, different companies come in, and I think, but I think it all comes down to a relationship and of the give and take and understanding the benefits that open space has, that understanding the benefits of any nonprofit, whether it's a church or a library or a big school. There's still, it's so hard to argue it publicly with everybody in town about why something should happen. And I think this is almost like a personal relationship between our representatives that we've elected and the entities. And but I think having some guidelines to help you guys follow, is it every year, is it every 2 years, is there certain levels of kind of companies or nonprofits that should be dealt with? Do you leave out churches automatically? Do you leave out, I think that's the part that's, and it's all voluntary. That's what it all comes down to. And I think in the past, I'm not sure who sat down and negotiated with anybody about anything, but having some sort of responsibility of the selectmen to initiate the conversation is a real conversation. It's give and take. And what comes out of it, the town and the people and the entities should all embrace it and not pick apart each of the parties for what they've done.
Yeah. Agreed.
You want me to speak to that, about who did what, when?
When?
Ben?
No, I don't know how any other arrangements
So I
have
was
been
just
made
gonna-
with any nonprofit.
Right. I was
You
gonna
spoke of
say,
one where there was whether it was $25,000 or an ambulance with Eagle Hill. I don't know if anybody's had a conversation with any other nonprofit for anything.
Well, and we used to, I was called out in my email that we're not charging for extra runs with the fire. And that is specifically something I'd like to look at. I assumed that that was still in place, but I've been not with the fire squad for a long time.
I think it's been a while since we've done that, and we should.
And well,
Those-
that's something
yep.
to look at for
Mhm.
sure. And, you know, going to Eagle Hill in the old days with the assessor, and she had come up with a formula, which was a piece of the infrastructure support, you know, and what it would be. And we went and sat down with the headmaster, and we came up with this agreement. Now, I've heard that that's changed over time, so got
Yeah.
more
It
formal.
changed in 2014.
Right.
with
So I
the-
just wanted to say that, you know, we did it, and so it's not a new idea.
No, I'm not
Right.
saying it should be a new idea, but I'm saying that at this point, it seems like it's become a public debate and not an arrangement between our representatives of the town and an entity.
Right. That's the social media aspect.
Yeah.
So does this go with this now?
Yes.
Was to amend this document, if you wanted to amend it.
I think,
That doesn't
again,
look like the case.
well, I didn't, like I said, when it first came before us, I didn't think the idea of it was a bad idea, Bill. I think that we could work on policies. I agree with Chris. There's more policies that should be put in place. I just, this one either needs a lot of tweaking, or this one needs maybe more than one page. And I'm sure we can get there and get somewhere in between.
Well,
But I feel like we're
everything-
spinning our wheels.
Everything Chris mentioned is in that policy, right in front of you.
Yep, and I don't, you know, again, I think, I don't like the based on revenue, the percentage
Well, then
based
we
on
can-
revenue. I
We can
don't,
amend that tonight
you know,
and take
back
Jen's
charging,
formula and apply it.
you know, back charging. And again, I think, I do think,
Well, the town has a right to go back 6 years.
and
I mean.
that's
you're-
great, That's
you know,
great that we
Kelly,
have the
you're
right
letting-
to, but does it mean that we have to?
It
Does that-
doesn't mean we
does
have
it
to, but it means we need to discuss it.
Make
And
it,
have a conversation
you know-
over it. You shouldn't just decide, you know, let's let this money slide.
I think if we could move forward with something,
We can
then,
move forward
we're
with this and
certainly
amend this and cut
better
things
than-
out
than we
and
were.
insert things.
so I-
Like if you don't like the revenue, Eric doesn't like the revenue, we can remove that whole paragraph, take Jen's thing from the 2005 policy and insert it into this document. We can do that.
We'd have to talk to her and.
We have the
have her come
formula.
up. Yep.
It's right there. Justine should have it, 2005 pilot.
We touched it back here, right?
Not a formula, no. I called you earlier to see if you had that 2005
Oh, I do.
formula. And it's in there. And other things you don't like, you do the same thing. You amend it. You remove it, you insert what you want.
Or let it go. We
Or
don't have to
let it go.
adopt
You
it at all.
don't, well, if you don't want to do the document at all, that's up to you.
Well,
That's your decision.
Yeah.
But you also
Jen's
represent
thing.
the citizens of this town
I
too.
do that.
Not a separate entity.
I understand.
Thank you.
Fine, even for discussion and debate.
deliberation, nothing wrong with it.
It's the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
I agree.
Can you read your
Yeah.
2 sentences?
Yeah. I told Mark I wanted 2 sentences and he came back with 3, so we failed our mission, but we did pretty good. The Select Board is committed to maintaining regular communication with all nonprofit organizations operating within the community. To this end, the Board will extend an invitation to each NFP for a voluntary meeting to discuss the organization's contributions and impact. These meetings will be held at least once every 2 years with the shared goal of fostering a collaborative and supportive relationship. Now, it's a very open, general policy, but it gives you the ability to meet with the nonprofits, look at what contributions they're making, what impact they're having on the town, and then negotiating what makes sense for both parties. And
So it wouldn't be based on anything specific. It wouldn't be based on a formula. It wouldn't be
Right,
based on a,
right.
because maybe that nonprofit isn't capable of a financial donation, but maybe they can do something other.
Absolutely.
I mean, right, it can come in all forms.
There's lots of contributions we can each make to the success of the town, and that makes this town a viable community where we all work together. We're all in this together, and that is what we want in this town. This town
Absolutely.
is a special place, and we need to make it that. We need to keep it that way. And I think anyone that's in this town would look at that and say, okay, let's work together. No one's here to take advantage of anybody. That's how we see it.
So you have no starting date as far as effective date or anything like that. Also, who's going to determine the impact fees?
We have a whole team that
Who? Exactly, like, is it an independent auditor? Is it an auditor? Who? Or what team?
We have a whole finance team here that can assess the impact.
Okay.
You don't need to hire other outside services to do an impact study.
Well,
I mean, this
then
is,
all right.
I
Then
mean,
why hasn't it been done?
I don't know. Ask the
I
selectmen.
mean, this was brought up in 2005,
Okay.
and it's gone nowhere. And then in 2014, there's been a revised pilot, but no one can seem to find the original pilot.
The elected officials at that time made
Well,
a deal.
It's the town of Hardwick. It's a select board.
Yeah, I
And
was
people
one
know.
of them.
Yeah, 2005.
Okay.
And no one seems to know.
I
how
think it was a
this came about.
handshake. I honestly do. Back then, I think it was a handshake.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And
No,
yes,
I-
times have changed. Should we continue to do things in that manner? Absolutely not, Bill.
There's something a lot more formal out there right now.
Right.
There should be
changed.
transparency. It should be all above board. Plain and simple. Like we're talking right here, right now.
I don't disagree with that.
And
And
starting,
negotiations
Absolutely.
with all nonprofits should be out in the open, public, right here.
starting today, this is what we should do. You can't go back in time.
No, you can't.
No.
You can only correct it. I get that. And that's what I'm trying to do,
Okay.
is correct.
Okay. Well, that's where we're at.
Okay. Thanks for the input.
You're welcome. Thanks for inputting us in the process. Anything else?
We're just waiting for Justine. I think she's looking for Jones.
Maybe we should wait for after the election, see what the next select board wants to do.
I don't know that we have, I mean, that's, I guess that's up to you
Well-
guys, but,
Just a suggestion.
I want to continue with this. That's what I want to do. There's no reason to table this or shelve this.
No, this is just a policy. Let's
Right.
finalize the policy, get something in place that makes sense. And then moving forward, you have something to go by.
Sorry, the printer was still printing planning board documents.
oh, no worries.
Your stuff's printed, Bill.
Thank you.
Does this show, okay.
If anything, you don't like this policy, we should use this policy created by Jen, the assessor. in the
For a
assessor.
specific situation. That
Well-
policy, that number isn't gonna work on,
Right, but the formula
Most
and
of
everything will
the-
work with all nonprofits.
the formula won't work with all nonprofits because they all take in money at different points, if any. This
That's-
is Eagle
right.
Hill School, that was what we were dealing with.
Yeah,
And we did it out in the open, and we didn't do
Really?
anything hidden. and we
Can't find
didn't
any meeting minutes.
file in-
Can't
no,
find
there
out
wasn't any
who
meeting
created the
minutes in
pilot
those
from
days at all.
2014.
Right. 14, I don't know about, 05.
But you were there to 2013.
That was when I left.
Yeah. And this document just magically appears of a revisal of a pilot
Yeah,
that no one seems to know about.
well, that's after my time.
I don't know.
Can we get that formula email to us? Jen's formula?
Yep.
Yeah, just email them the whole pilot.
I have a hard time with a policy that specifies an exact way that we're going to analyze every single nonprofit when it should be looked upon on an individual basis.
They're negotiated individually.
Right,
And
but
depending on the
if you're putting in
nonprofit,
a,
it states here, in this.
The easy solution is just go with a simple
yeah,
policy.
if I had to vote on one today, that's the one I would vote on, I'm
But
not
we're
gonna
not
lie.
voting. We're deliberating, we're creating a policy.
Let's create the policy.
Right, and
We
I
wanna
don't
know-
agree with that policy at all.
We don't need
It's
to.
very vague.
Yeah.
No, I do need to agree with it.
Well, you can either accept it or
Right,
not
and
accept it.
I don't accept it.
That's fine.
Right,
Okay, we're advising, you go with
Yeah.
something simple.
that's right,
You can do what you want.
exactly.
You're looking for our input, we're
Right, and I
gonna,
appreciate the input, but if anything, I'd lean more towards Jen's policy if you want to get rid of this policy, and I don't recommend getting rid of this policy. I recommend amending this policy the way you want it, because everything you have or discussed is in this policy.
okay. Then let's not do it.
Yeah, let's amend it.
It's just coming from you. It's
It's not just coming from me.
You said you put
Well,
it
yeah,
together
I put it
yourself.
together, yeah,
Right.
what's wrong with that?
Nothing, I'm just saying
Okay.
it's one person.
And it's not like I sign it and say, okay,
Excuse
vote on
me,
this.
can I finish the sentence?
Well,
I just
Okay,
think
let's
it's
keep it
your
civil.
opinion. That's what I'm saying. It comes out from you. So
Right.
one person. So
Right.
I think what we need to do is do this in a group and come up with something that works for more than just one person. That's,
Well, that's what that's why
well,
we're
that's what we're
here.
working, that's what we're
That's
here.
what we're here
To
for.
amend the document, so if you'd like to amend it, let's amend it.
I'd like to throw it out
Why would you like to throw it out?
because I think it's angry and it's antagonistic.
Oh.
And it's not the town I
So
want to
it's-
live in.
So you think the citizens of this town should be paying like the cost of everything. You'd rather stick it to them.
I'd like to see the school looked at,
Mm.
public school. That's where the money goes.
Also goes to fire, police, ambulance. We no longer have an ambulance.
I know
We have
that.
ambulance service, but no longer an ambulance.
Right. The town never put any money into the ambulance. If the ambulance was not a burden on the town never contributed a dime.
No,
How's about that?
it didn't. And when it
So you don't
came,
charge for an ambulance service? You don't send out bills?
Right now,
No.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Can we get back to looking
Yeah.
at the policy?
100%, please.
Which policy?
Either one.
I think we should go with what the finance committee came up with. Use that as a starting place. And figure out how to go after meeting with someone.
I disagree.
Are you making a motion?
I so move.
I'd second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Oh, this is just a workshop.
Okay,
Right.
well,
What does that mean?
let's
Um,
start, well, because,
There's
yeah,
no vote.
there's really no,
There's no.
well, yeah.
So
I
we'll
guess
have
it's
to
our
do it again.
opinion, it's our opinion to work with one and not the other. And it doesn't mean that there's not good things in both of them, but
Well,
we need to start somewhere.
yeah. We do.
We can literally go line by line, I don't know.
That's for this stuff, so you can just put that aside.
This is- yeah.
What is this?
It was to amend this original policy. If we were gonna amend
It goes
it.
with this.
Yeah. And when it says page and line, you know, count down the
Yeah,
lines.
just making sure I understand that.
I mean, can we mesh the two together?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Right,
Yep.
depending on which, I mean, it doesn't matter which one you go with, you still need, to have, definitions of
Mhm.
what a nonprofit is. You still need to, define, base rate and everything. And I mean, I will say, a lot of work did go into this one, so I mean,
And it's already gone by legal, and they didn't have a problem with it.
They didn't really give an opinion.
Well, they
Because it's a
did.
policy that's to be made, set by the board.
Well, all right. It's not like they came back and said, this is heavy-handed one side. It's not fair and equal.
But they wouldn't, because
It's
they
not
can't,
equitable.
they can't do that. It's a policy to be set by the board.
They come back and tell you if it's legal or not, that's all.
Right.
All right, so if we're gonna work on this policy, I think the first thing we do is we remove item 3,
The structure.
item
Mhm.
4,
Yeah. Audited financial statements. So what would you, so if we took out, I mean, the contribution structure, if we took it out,
every nonprofit's gonna have their own deal. You're gonna negotiate a deal based on what they contribute.
Well,
And
it's
what you
also to
contribute.
cover their impact fee, right? That's the goal of that fee, their contribution, is to cover their impact, because the town shouldn't be paying it. We agreed the last meeting on that.
Yeah.
That's still the same, right?
Yeah, so you negotiate
Okay.
with the town, so negotiate with the,
To cover impact.
to cover impact, and whatever that impact's gonna be, you guys come up with a And if the nonprofit is contributing some value to the town, that's non-monetarial, you need to take that into effect.
Right, and it's gotta be, you know, you gotta be able to keep it accountable. It's gotta be trackable, you just can't say, oh, we did this. So further in this, it says trackable and accountable.
Okay.
So it's not like,
Where-
oh,
where's
by
that?
the way, we did this, this, and this. Who did? When did it happen? You know what I mean? It's gotta be accountable.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not against it, it's in here.
How do you measure some of the because you say walking on trail gives you peace of mind, church gives you peace of mind. You're looking for a monetary value on
Well-
peace of mind or on open space or on, I mean, if you're gonna look at it factually, you just say,
example-
okay, for every acre we preserve, we've saved the town $20,000. So could East Quabbin Land Trust say, you owe us money because we've preserved this much land and we've saved this many tax dollars in housing costs?
I would disagree with that statement on housing trust, but that's your statement, that's
Well,
your
no,
opinion.
there's data been
There is
said
as
many
well.
times about
Right, but
every
yet
house that's built
houses are
costs
being
this town
built and students
$20,000.
are going to our public school and no costs are being covered there. So certain people.
But when they preserve the land, those things don't happen. I think that's what Warren's
I'm
saying.
saying on the
Right.
contribution
open
What's
side.
spaces-
the limit on open space? I mean, we got
Oh, I don't disagree.
33%
They don't-
of
don't-
land
yeah.
owned by nonprofits. I mean, how
Including
much
the
open
state.
space?
The
Yeah.
state is involved in that.
State
And what
is a-
about,
is
I
a big
mean,
part of it.
you talk
No,
about
I'm
this,
just
this is a
saying,
good
it's hard to
subject.
measure this. You say
But
you
you
want to put
talk
a
about
measurement. You
cost
can't
of the
measure
housing.
aesthetics.
You talk about cost of housing, the cost of town. Well, what about the future generation? Where's their opportunity? You, people in this town were given the opportunity to buy this land cheap, buy their houses cheap, and live here. But at the same time, we're blocking out the future generation from buying houses because we don't want a house built, a single-family house built, because they might have kids someday and send them to our school. I mean, where's their American dream?
I think a lot of people in this town, or a portion of these people in town, don't want any more open space developed. And there may be a portion of this town that they want developed. It's.
Right, where's the balance?
But it's,
I mean,
the
how much
the
open space
community
do we
has to
need?
decide what they want.
Well, not necessarily, because you guys are deciding this. You're saying housing costs money.
No,
Say, we're
I was
doing it.
talking about the credit deal. If you're talking about the cost
How to
and the
figure out
benefits.
the true impact.
Each person's gonna come to you with their benefit. And a
Correct.
historical society provides a security for our huge history. What's the dollar, how do you benefit?
Quantify that,
What's that
right.
benefit? What's church benefit? And every single entity could come to you with things that are positive, that they contribute to the town.
Mm-hmm.
You may not agree with it, someone might not agree with it, but you can't put a dollar value on peace of mind, or on open space, or on,
Joy.
or additional farming. You know, you can't put that on paper. You know, if you wanted to create a balance sheet saying, okay, the fire trucks went there 3 times, that's this much, but you provided beautifulness for 200 people, how do you measure that? I think that's
Well, an
really.
example, since you brought up East Quabbin Land Trust. East Quabbin Land Trust has a lot of volunteers. Over 100. And it's pretty simple, I mean, I say it's simple, but say 50 of them spend time in Hardwick, clearing trails, 8 hours a day. What's 15, or the minimum wage on those 50 people or 100 people? And they put a number to it and say, okay, instead of our policy being, you know, our contribution being $10,000 at the end of the year, we've done X amount of volunteer hours to make Hardwick beautiful, and here are the hours for it, it's 0. And the board looks at it and says, yep, it's accountable, it's trackable, okay.
How is it trackable?
Because East Quabbin Land Trust keeps track of those hours. It's on them. It's kind of like an honor system. You know what I mean? And you walk out, well, what did you improve? Oh, these areas, they'll tell you. And if you want to walk out there and walk the trail and take it in and say, good, look beautiful, okay. That's not difficult. But that's an example.
Okay.
So those things are quantifiable,
Yeah.
but that's not what Warren's asking.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
I thought it was.
I think the balance, it's hard.
it is. There are
to-
things
to
that aren't
put it-
quantifiable.
To put it down as facts, and that's what's hard about
Right.
the policy, where a negotiation of two intelligent people talking, saying, okay,
As an
let's
example.
argue a little bit about what benefits you bring to town, what costs you have in town, instead of it being literally a sheet that says this versus this, because every year it's gonna be different. You know, what if the police went someplace 10 times this year, but only once next year? Do we do a 10-year average for that? What if, it's just hard, it's so hard to measure that I don't know that having a policy that says anything other than meet with the people, have a conversation, and come up with a result.
Well, and you gotta know your costs. You
Yeah.
gotta know your
and-
impacts. What's the DPW, what's the police? Because
Yeah.
every year, or every other year, they're buying a cruiser. Their raises, you know, labor, stuff like that. That's just the police. Fire, got a new fire truck. Everybody else in town's been assessed, or will be assessed, a fee for that.
Madam
Well-
Chair, maybe just something that could be said is just, you know, that this policy will take in-kind contributions
Right.
into consideration when developing an individual policy, or whatever, however you want to word it, but just blanket say, like, we take in-kind contributions
Right
into
here.
consideration.
Article 6, in-kind contributions and community benefits.
Any proposed in-kind contribution must be documented in a formal agreement and be quantified and trackable.
I gave you an example of it.
And there's probably many that aren't, so how do you come up with?
Work it out. When you're working it out, like you're negotiating an agreement with somebody and you sit down, you ask them, what works for them? And they'll tell you. I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel.
Okay. All right, so, item number 5, semi-annual review. How often do you wanna review this?
It really depends.
Review the policy or review,
While reviewing the pilot program,
The pilot, yeah.
the contribution structure. I mean, I think it's something you wanna set and let it be a multi-year thing. You don't wanna be, meeting with them, and it's gonna put a lot of work on the town
everyone.
administrator, the board of selectmen.
And
Right.
finance.
And
Finance team.
that's why originally it was tied to revenue. So somebody could simply look up a form, do some math, and have a number.
Madam Chair?
Mm.
I don't care for the short version, only because I don't think I just don't think it's enough, like you said. However, I do like, I like that they wanna, review it every 2 years.
Yeah.
If I take anything from the short one, I like what you wrote there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think semi-annual is a lot to put on anyone.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I agree.
semi-annual is every 2 years.
That's buy-in.
Oh, fine, all right.
Right.
You want 2 years.
It's not that I don't care for it, I just don't think it's,
No, I think if we mesh the two, I think there's possibility there. I want it to be across the board though, and we're not just singling out certain entities.
I think it's gonna have to be that way. I think every one is different.
Agreed. So every pilot will be different.
Right.
Right, the
The,
agreement
the
was.
policy itself is what hopefully allows, the
General.
guidelines and the, right. It sets up anyone who's on the board, regardless of when, it's something to follow, and guidelines to follow. That's what we want to do here.
I think you're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Why we do this?
deliberation.
I love a good debate.
All the time.
I don't.
We're working together, we just have different viewpoints right now on certain things.
You have a lot of passion to the policy, which is fantastic. It gets the discussion going, which we need to do, so
Right,
this is
all good.
this is how it works.
right, exactly.
Yeah. So right now, I'm looking at items 3 and 4 to strike from the agreement.
Contribution structure, so there's not gonna be a contribution structure to your agreements?
No.
So that it's just what?
I
You
think
keep
it's
it open-ended.
individually based.
And then we
I
just
think it has
Based
to
on
be.
what, though? It's gonna be based on impact fees and stuff, right?
So when
So
certain people
what's
have
the
impact
contribution?
fees.
Right, and certain
So-
people aren't gonna have
Yeah.
a ton of impact fees at all.
Right, true.
So I think it needs to simply be the conversation between the town and the entity. I agree with that. I think,
Yeah, the only structure should be every 2 years maybe, or maybe.
That it's reviewed.
Maybe there's an initial one, and maybe you got, during the discussion, you might even say, listen, things change so much in your world, we'd like to do it every 2 years. Someone like the Historical Society, we might like to leave you guys alone for 5 years.
Based on the
Right.
impact to the
Yeah.
town.
to the town,
Yeah.
correct, yeah.
If the asset and costs are so volatile that you might want to look at it a little bit more frequently, but if there's absolutely no balance sheet, you
Then
might
there's
say,
no-
we'll
right.
talk to you in 10 years, at St. Aloysius,
You know,
And it's incumbent on the people on both sides to come armed with whatever it is they think is important. Each entity will be well-versed on what they bring to the table as far as assets go and as far as contributions. And the town would also be amply informed of what the impacts could be for that particular entity.
And,
Right.
yeah, I agree. In future expansion of
Yeah.
potential entities.
Yeah.
It's best for them to, come to the town and say, hey, we plan on doing this, and it might cost you X,
Yeah.
and work something out
That's the time to do it.
beforehand.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, at the end of the day, we all live here. We all love this town. And we want the town to at least just be able to exist. And, prosper, to function properly. And, that's it. I mean, there are a lot of people that do a lot of volunteer hours and work minimum wage. And we're not giving these people raises, and they're in key roles. Because we can't afford to pay them more. And so.
But we're trying.
We are definitely trying.
yeah,
Don't get me wrong there, we
we're
are
making some
trying.
progress.
And we're making strides,
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, so, Hardwick is a beautiful place. And it should benefit all.
Anything else you guys see on here?
Well, even within number 5, do you want to strike the rate of contribution line from that, on number 5? Or is that, or just the end result? I think it's dangerous to keep rate of contribution
Yeah.
in anywhere. I think you kind of said, we
Oh,
strike
yeah,
that.
yeah. It will just be the pilot will be reviewed,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, under here, contribution structure. Like future expansion. So, like, I brought up, like, if there's an impact on it. You should know about it, and it should be in there.
I think whatever agreement you have with each of the nonprofits, that's what you build into it.
All right, we'll
So,
build it in there.
Yeah.
but it should be in there.
Yeah, you could, like you said, you could negotiate. We'd like to look at this again if you go do this.
Yeah.
Maybe that goes under review and adjustment period.
Yeah.
Maybe you add, maybe that kind of gets dropped down into,
Well, wouldn't you just have that in
Part of
the agreement of?
It should be,
of-
yes.
Of each individual?
but I think what Bill's saying is that should be one of the guidelines that is put in there.
Right, so it
Because
doesn't get
the
missed.
three of us aren't always gonna be sitting here.
Right.
So we may know that, and so if we're negotiating, we would know that. But in 3 years from now, when it's 3 other people, then they wouldn't necessarily know that. I'm sure they're not gonna review all of our meetings. I mean, maybe, but,
Never know.
Basically, you know, you want it in as guidelines,
so, it could be
wherever you wanna put it.
just any expansion, any change in, whether it be facility, land, whatever.
Yeah.
Something to that nature.
Right, if a nonprofit comes to town, buys up, say, 500 acres and says, hey, I wanna put in low-income housing. You think there's gonna be impact fees with that?
Well,
There's gonna be sewer, there's gonna be all kinds of
yeah,
stuff.
there's.
And yeah, I'm sure you'd like to know about that before
Yeah.
they built it.
Yeah.
That's all.
So that could be added down below the review part. Changes to changes in the town's cost, economic conditions affecting the nonprofit, change to land facilities, etc.
Okay.
Now, you're giving a small nonprofit exemption, but what if, for some reason, a nonprofit comes in that's a small nonprofit that has a huge impact on services?
If you wanna strike that, that's, if you all wanna strike it, it's up to you, but
I think you gotta look at them all on an individual basis, and maybe when you do look at them, there is no impact, and so you say, okay,
Yeah, you get a 10-year waiver or something.
we're good, yeah,
Unless
But
something
the-
changes and then there's
Correct.
impact. Right.
correct, and then,
I mean, we can reduce the dollar amount from 500,000 to say 150,000 or 100,000 or 0. I mean, the whole thing with small nonprofit is, trying to give them a chance to get off their feet, help them out.
Well, I think so if you exempt it, and they do have an impact, let's say some crazy nonprofit comes in and
Yeah, I was
the
trying to
police-
think of an
The police
example.
there every day because
Right.
of, it's a nonprofit dog pound, and the dogs are always getting out, right?
yeah,
So,
Well, yeah, that's a good point, like an animal shelter or
yeah,
something.
Something,
right.
right.
You have,
Yeah, I gotcha.
the dog office is down there every day, and you're racking up all these fees, and they're, well, I'm exempt, so I'm good. You take it out, and if it's,
So do you wanna get rid of it altogether?
just get rid of it, and then you can always pass and say, yeah, you guys are fine.
Which part?
The whole section
Exemption.
7.
7.
I think you, yeah, I
Delete.
think you look at them all and then
Yeah,
face each one individually.
and that way it's fair it's fair
Yeah.
across the board for everybody.
For what it's worth, I like 8.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good one.
I agree.
Okay.
I think you can remove total
Well,
reporting.
why would you remove that?
Well, what do you need it for?
So the citizens of the town know where the money's going, and what it's being used for.
Oh, I'm sorry, the select board will provide me. with-
Yeah, it's
Okay,
on
sorry.
us to
Yeah.
provide this.
I thought they had to provide.
Yeah, no.
No, well, that's fine.
Okay. Any problem with 10? Anybody? I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
No, that was,
Okay.
Is 5 years too long? depending on the editor.
Well, you're gonna review it every other year.
Well, this is a review of the select board, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Span 5 years, okay. Yeah, but a lot of, depending on the nonprofit, they're gonna be here longer than 5 years. I mean, if something catastrophic, or something, something major, we bring them in and say,
And we are looking at them every other year.
yeah, so you have the
like,
conversation.
in case there's changes to them
So
or
it's not
changes
saying it's
to
not,
us.
it can't be changed for 5 years, it can be changed before 5 years.
Right. But at the same time, like, we were asking them to be good neighbors and say, hey, if you're gonna build something that's gonna impact us, at the same time, we're gonna be letting them know, hey, we got this issue and we need to correct it, and we're planning on it, and it's gonna be like 2 or 3 years out, like a capital improvement. But it's gonna benefit everyone. And then use of pilot funds, that's,
Yeah,
police,
that's,
fire, emergency services, water, sewer, infrastructure, I mean, it's all good
I
stuff.
mean, those are the things that would be impacted, so
Yeah, it should.
I'm okay with that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd love to have, well, actually, I'd love the idea of to have pilot funds being allocated for a specific thing, like going into capital. Because, if we use the pilot funds to fund budgets, I think that's a bad idea.
No, I guess I looked at this as more of, like, yeah, if a road needed to be redone because it was,
Because it's capital.
You know,
It
yeah.
goes into.
yeah,
And if we allocated these funds to go into a specific fund, and I'm saying capital because that's where.
that's where the savings account goes.
If you got the fire truck
Yep.
going up every day, you're gonna need a new fire truck. If you send in police cars up earlier, you're gonna need.
We
So-
can add it as one of the items, capital.
Well, I think it should not
Capital
go
account?
into, it should not fund budgets.
Okay,
So capital expenditures,
It should just go in the
Cookie jar.
capital,
Right.
it should go into the capital
Yeah.
stabilization account for future
Savings.
use. Yeah, and that way there, we need to build our capital
we
program.
do.
And this is,
And that's where the big ticket items can come from, if we had
okay. Well, what about a future fire truck? Is that gonna be on the account where we're gonna
That's
say
what-
5% allocated from the
Yeah,
budget
goes
for a replacement fire truck?
yeah, goes into capital, and that's.
that could potentially come out of capital stabilization if we had an account that was plentiful.
Or if we got a grant and we needed an
Well,
extra
some
of these-
50.
some of these
Oh, wait,
funds
I'll
should go
talk
to that.
later, never mind.
Like whether it's a percentage or whatever, it's worked out amongst us, or amongst, finance and the select
But I do
board.
agree, like, we shouldn't be balancing our budget with the money,
Correct.
because
Right,
that's taking,
right.
that's like using your savings account to balance your budget.
Right, but
It
at
also
this, I'm just saying, we need to allocate these funds for replacement future costs.
So that would
we're-
be that's
That's like
capital.
capital.
Our 100% capital.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
and guess what?
But-
Yeah.
That's the place to put it. Because that way there, that money's going in and it's supporting it's supporting the infrastructure
Yep.
and the departments that are gonna need that capital equipment to do
Okay.
the job.
Okay.
Yep.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So something I've been like really harping on, and Chris, even I talked about this, is we need to get back into doing a like fleet maintenance schedule, not
Mhm.
just with fire, but police, fire,
Everybody.
highway,
Yeah,
so we can replace, equipment when need be.
more on
So-
a regular basis
Exactly.
and not
Wait till it's
as an
emergency.
urgent,
Yeah.
right,
Right,
Yeah.
we should have an equipment
I-
database
I agree,
with maintenance logs and everything.
I agree with that. What do you think?
I think our capital is way down
Yep.
and we need to boost it to do that. And that's what it's for. It's for a rainy day and emergencies. And if we had a grant for 3/4 of a fire truck and
Then
we
we
had
needed
to make,
to, we needed
we
to,
need
yep,
matching funds and
Yep.
stuff, we can do that.
So you want to delete public safety, delete infrastructure, delete education, just put
Capital
capital
stabilization.
account.
Yeah,
Okay.
capital stabilization.
Okay.
That's how they get allocated.
I'm not sure what 12 is going to be.
Yeah, it's,
This one looked up to 4 right now.
I don't think so.
I'm not sure that, that's kind of the problem, what we're battling against,
Yeah.
is too much public.
I would agree.
They have the right to know.
100%. And during an open meeting, we would likely talk about it, that, you know, renegotiations coming up or whatever, but the negotiating of it is between the town and the entity. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Yep.
You mean item 12 here, community engagement, transparency?
Correct.
Right, it should be on the meeting minutes though. The town should be aware, the citizens should be aware of it if you're negotiating.
That's what I just
All
said.
right, okay, I'm just
Yeah,
making
so
sure.
in a meeting, well, whoever's on the board is likely gonna talk about, oh gee, you know, starting next week, we're reviewing all the pilots,
Okay.
right? So they'll know that it's going on, but as far as negotiating, that should be the town, its representatives, and the entity negotiating.
Right, but it should be a working meeting where, so the citizens can observe it.
Just like now.
Yeah, just like right now. Well,
So the outcome will be public. I don't know that the negotiation needs to
All right.
be made in public.
yeah, I would agree.
After it's
Okay.
done, it's public,
okay,
We're
All right.
gonna go
Yeah.
to
As
an
long as it's
executive
public.
session then.
you know, I don't, yeah.
okay.
It's executive session then if we're doing contracts, right?
A pilot, is it a contract?
No, I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
saying
It's an
it's like
agreement,
that.
Yeah.
contract, call it, yeah.
I'm okay with the last one,
Yeah, that's just
that's just,
saying, hey, good neighbors.
that we, yep, that we're all just looking to do,
So maybe at the beginning you can add some of your fluffy stuff?
yeah, that's, I was, yeah.
No, it's
straightforward.
Start here and here, and we end up in the middle, I think we have
think
a
we-
good,
yeah.
a good policy that the town can live with, and everyone can live with.
And I think it's important, that's
So
just
just
what
think
Bill's
about all
trying to do
the-
is to set
edits.
a policy that 10 years from now.
If you don't,
I
I
have
do.
most of them, I think, but I can
Structure.
kind of,
Kelly's got.
I've got, I
Yeah.
marked everything up, yep,
me too, I marked stuff too, so
Okay.
put between the two
So-
of us.
yep, so if we, yep.
I can definitely clean this up and put together and get it out to everyone to make sure like nothing was missed. However, I will not be able to get it on Monday's agenda.
No,
Okay.
the first one in February is fine,
Okay.
yep, that's fine.
And when will the revision, will this go out so we can revise it, like check?
Well, I'm only here tomorrow and then I'm out the rest of the week, so
Okay,
hopefully by next week.
okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, that works.
Because then it won't be on the agenda until, The 10th?
If that's a Monday?
yes, this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's our first meeting. in
Okay, yeah,
February.
the 10th,
Yeah,
so
so
that's
then
plenty of
we'll-
time.
Yeah, to,
Yeah.
if she gets it out next week, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Good job.
Good job.
Great, so-
Thank you.
You're welcome, Chris.
Is that a
Free to
motion?
adjourn your meeting.
Move that we adjourn.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Take a motion.
To adjourn.
Oh, that's it.
I'm sorry, I should have made it, yeah.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 6:33.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nice job.
Good job, Kelly.
Mr. Volheim?
Good job, Mr.
Okay.
Call Russ.
Thank you, sir. Don't get up.
Oh, I got it. It's good to get up.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, of course. I didn't do anything.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You want me
ma'am.
to push your agenda?
Thank you.
You told
Thank you,
us
sir.
to post it.
We got there.
Well, we meeting this week?
Yeah,
for Thursday.
Yeah, good.
I'm at my conference Thursday, Saturday. So I'll call you.
Landon is a good land.
I really wanted to put on the agenda, which I know last time we